57, I graduated from high school, and I went to Kansas State, studied agronomy, and that wasn't what my dad wanted me to do. Dad wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, or a geologist, and I just wanted to be a farmer. So I graduated in 63 and came right back to the farm and just came back to home. You know, they never told me I couldn't. They didn't tell me I could. I just did and started farming. And by this time, Dad's health wasn't real good. And so I liked it. Of course, I had some new ideas, and Dad was slow to let me do them, but we did them. And finally, in in 1964, I had a date with a gal from Great Bend and ended up in a nightclub called the Beachcomber in Great Bend. And lo and behold, that night there were two couples that came in that were from Waukeeny, and one of them was a fraternity brother, was my pledge son, and so it was a good friend. And he had his date with this lady from that was a school teacher at Waukeeny, but her folks lived in Larned, and I says, "Oh, you don't live in Larned. I know everybody in Larned. I was being a real turkey." And she says, "No, her stepdad ran the sale barn." So I had been to the country club with my date, and had probably had one or two drinks, maybe before, or too many before I really should have. And but I met Carolyn, but I couldn't remember her last name. I thought it was Bird, but it was Berg. Well, that's close.
Yeah, right.
But I knew that her stepdad ran the sale barn. And the sale barn, I didn't know anything about the sale barn, but my best friend, Jack Detman, his mother worked at the sale barn. And so I came, when I decided about Thanksgiving, I decided, well, I'm going to try calling her. So through Jack and through Elva, I got it that it was Carolyn Berg. And so I called Carolyn's mother down at the sale barn and asked her if Carolyn was coming home. And she says no, she was going to go to Denver for Thanksgiving. And I thought, oh, well, she's got a boyfriend. And so, well, so much for that. And but it never really left my mind. It still was festering there. And so Christmas came. And so I thought, I'm going to try it one more time. Well, lo and behold, she was going to come home for Christmas. And Esther told me that. Well, in the meantime, I find out that Esther talks to Elva and says, "Who's this John Haas?" You know, and so, of course, Elva knew me. We lived just 2 doors apart. And I mean, I spent a lot of time over there. So she did a research with Elva and found out about me, and I guess it didn't scare her off. And anyway, she came home for Christmas, and I called Carolyn and I said, "Well, would you like?" "Well, yeah." She says, "I'd go out." I said, "How about the 28th of December?" And I don't know what day of the week it was, but anyway, she says, "Okay." And so I went and picked her up, and at that time I had a new Pontiac Catalina, 1964. It was a nice car, and so I picked her up, and I said, well, we went to Great Bend to eat, and we went to the bowling alley, and I can't remember the name of it. Do you remember the name of it? Anyway, we went to the bowling alley. They had a club in the bowling alley, and I knew the guys who were running the club, and I'd been there numerous times. So we went there and had dinner, and we just talked. We talked that whole evening. What? I don't have any idea. But it was very enjoyable, and on the way home, I said, well, would you like to go out again? And she says, well, yeah. And I said, well, how about tomorrow night? And she said, okay. So, and we did the same thing. We went to that bowling alley in the club, had dinner, and talked the whole evening. And I guess I was enjoying myself, and I guess she was too. And so on the way home, I said, "Well, you want to go out again?" "Well, yeah." And I says, "Well, I can't do it on New Year's Eve, which was 2 days away, because I said I already have a commitment, and so did she." So I said, "How about tomorrow night?" And so we did tomorrow night. And we did the same thing. Went back to Great Bend to the club. I don't know what we ate, but anyway, we went back there and we just visited and enjoyed it. And so then the next night, why, it was New Year's Eve, and I had a date and she had a date, and and then on January the 1st, I had made arrangements with a good fraternity brother of mine, Travis Bowie, and we headed for Colorado to be a ski bum for the winter. And so we went to ski to Colorado, and I got a job at Vail, Colorado, when it was just starting. And I worked at Midvale in the restaurant in the middle of the mountain, and so Travis and I bussed tables. Well, that was pretty good. We made 90 cents an hour, and they furnished a place to live, and we got to eat whatever we could from the Midvale. So we basically got that, but we made 90 cents, and that was good. And there was a lot of people working at Vail, and most of them were college kids, or even kind of professional. One of the guy was a CPA that just wanted to get away from it and came to Colorado, and one of the gals that worked there was a stripper from Las Vegas. So there was a lot of people, about all our age, and so we got there in first part of January, and then the dishwasher, I loaned him my skis one morning, and he broke his leg. So I got promoted to dishwasher for $1.25 an hour. Whoo, big bucks. And that was all right, but then the cook left, and I think he was what that term period we called a kind of query guy, a little strange. Anyway, and he was a fry cook, and so I said, "Well, could I be the fry cook?" And, "Well, have you got any?" "Yeah, oh yeah." I said, Lloyd Zink had Lloyd's Drive-In down there. I says, and he was a good friend, and I knew he would, if they called him, that he would vouch for me. And I said, "Well, okay." They says, I made $1.35 an hour, but I got to ski more because I didn't have to be to work at the thing till about 10:30, and then I was off about 2:30. Big fry cook. I made hamburgers, hot dogs, and grilled cheese sandwiches. That was the menu, and so I stayed there. And during that time period, I told Carolyn that, well, I think maybe I'll write. You don't phone. At that time period, it was writing, and of course I didn't do it. And so then in April, I decided it was time for me to go home, and I wanted to buy cattle and get into the cattle business. And so on the way home, I stopped by Walkini because I had her address, but I didn't write her. And her little gal that she rented from, Mrs. Shriner, she was protective of her single schoolmarm in the basement, and she wouldn't tell me much about her. And she told me she was eating, and so I did go to the restaurants. There were 2 or 3 in town, but Carolyn was sitting in the back booth, I guess, and I didn't go clear to the back. Well, it's kind of obvious I didn't want to go just checking everybody, but I didn't see her, so I went home, and I did buy cattle. That's when I started cattle business. John Lindsay, my cousin, he thought he knew an awful lot about livestock and that, and so yeah, we're still going. So he went with me, and I bought 25 head of Angus cows, pregnant, and started in the cattle business. Well, in the meantime, Carolyn came home, and I'm not sure what the time element was, but it was before schools. And we did get back together and said hi, and she wasn't real mad at me, I guess. Anyway, And so I got acquainted with her. Well, in the meantime, she got me acquainted with her stepdad. And he was in the cattle business. He's a cattleman. He was an old time cowboy. And so he said, well, let me see the cows you bought. I always remember that. Well, he wasn't very complimentary. I mean, he didn't say they're a bad deal, but I gave $190 a head for them. I remember what I gave for them. And anyway, he says, well, I'll help you. And so I got acquainted with her stepdad and became very good friends with her parents. Amazingly, after we dated for a while, I would go down and spend during the week, go see them down there and visit and find out about Carolyn. And then, of course, I don't know how it progressed, but anyway, I think we saw each other every weekend. I either went to Walkeny or she came home. And we were just really enjoying each other's company. And I asked her if she had ever sailed, and she said no, because I liked sailboating. And I asked her, you ever skied? No. And so I says, well, maybe we can get together and teach you how to do that. And so then as progressed, why she made comment to me. She says, well, I don't know how this is going to work. She says, I really don't want to live in Kansas, and I darn sure don't want to live in the same town as my parents. And I don't think I want to marry a farmer, and she did them all. But anyway, that summer, we were together an awful lot. She was home all summer, and that was good. And so when she went back to school, it was a sad time, but I was busy farming. I had cattle to take care of, and I started farming with Dad. We had a very loose partnership type thing, and that worked. That worked for the season. Now that would have been in '64, going into '65. Well, Carolyn's and my relationship blossomed and bloomed, and we decided to. It was on Christmas Eve, I think, on our way down to her folks for Christmas, because I think it was Christmas. I'm sure it was. And I said, oh, by the way, well, Carolyn and I had shopped for a ring in Hayes, and we had found a ring that she liked. And at that time period, I that was nice. So I bought the ring, not when she was with me, and I had it in the glove box. And so romantically, as we were driving down Broadway, probably heading to her house, we were in front of Robinson's Hardware. I don't remember where it was at, and I says, "Oh, open the glove box. There's something in there for you." It was so neat. It was just really, I got down on my knees and said, "Oh, I just opened the glove box and it's in there." Yeah, right. And so she was excited and said yes, and we knew we'd made plans. So we went down to her folks, and her brother was home. Her brother was JD. And we didn't anymore walk in. And JD said,
"What's that on your finger?"
Oh, really?
oh.
Well, we were sitting on the couch.
And boy, he was quick to pick that up. And of course, there's big hula and everything. And that started, and it was good. And so we decided to get married the next summer. And I spent a lot of time going back and forth. But anyway, farming. So then.
Well, let's take a pause.